Hello, everybody. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor, and I don't know why that audio is never good when I'm live. It's probably because I have a guest. But thank you for staying tuned. Sorry that was my intro was so low. I'm going to work on that. Who knows audio? Hit me a message so you can help me. We're live here on a Monday. I saw this story and I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to make it part of my new series that I'm very excited about that I may do reoccurring depending on how well it does. But in the meanwhile, it's just going to happen when the stories happen. But welcome to Star Wars, The Middle Ground. Wah, 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 wah. Ha ha! I'm going to make that an animation at some point. But I'm so happy to be back. I'm here with a special guest. Our first chat sort of inspired this sort of talk of bringing on Star Wars fans who can help me find that middle ground. Not the high ground, not the low ground, not the extreme, not the hate. We all know where the extreme and the hate lead to, the dark side. We need to find that middle ground in Star Wars fandom because it's just getting crazy. And today's news about people mocking and bullying Anthony Daniels just shows sort of the hypocrisy in fandom right now that I do want to call out because sometimes I don't always agree with everything I hear in this, but this was one that I felt was a very fair point that I want to make sure got a signal boost. So I got a special guest who's been muted. He's here now. Welcome to the show, Danny, World of Geekdom. Hey, Danny, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Woohoo! It's working. Nice.
All right.
Welcome back to the show. Nice to have you back, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm excited to talk about this. It's like every week there's something new with this fans versus Lucasfilm, fans versus fans. It's just an endless story.
Never ends. They're giving us plenty to feed off of because they're just feeding off of all of the hate of Last Jedi. I mean, before we get to this sort of story, is that where it started? Do we feel like Last Jedi is where it really sort of turned to the dark side? It's not really. I feel like people have been hating on Ewoks and the prequels. I mean, there's been hate of Star Wars for decades. Would you agree?
Yeah, I feel like so I feel like what's happened is the prequels got a lot of hate and Jedi did, but that was before our time. I mean, there was no internet during those days. But when Phantom Menace happened, there were definitely message boards and things like that for the prequels. And I just remember it being kind of a well-liked movie for a while until people realized that it wasn't that good. That's why I have a term that I dubbed called Phantom Menace syndrome. And that is when you go see a film and you love the film and then you realize a few months later that it's really not that good. And you're riding off of that hype train, that high. You know, because the movie Phantom Menace started or ended with a great lightsaber duel. So you're like, okay, that was an amazing lightsaber duel. Yep. It was a great movie. And then you realize that there's a lot of stuff in the movie that's just really boring and whatnot. I think with the issue now is we have the internet, we have social media, and now we have this sort of culture war that has invaded nerd fandom. And it's really annoying me, to be honest with you, man. It's kind of annoying because every time a movie comes out, there's got to be some kind of debate over, is there enough people of color? Is there enough, different representation? Then you've got the other side who's fighting against that, saying, well, just give us a good movie. But then you have, like we talked about earlier and other shows, you've got like the small pocket of fans who are very vocal, who are just pricks to other people, and on both sides. And then what ends up happening is those small vocal fans end up misrepresenting the actual message of the good fans they're trying to give out. So it's in every fandom, not just Star Wars. But I think Last Jedi really changed things.
Yeah, and I think Last Jedi made things the toxic fandom that we speak about. There were people who hated the prequels and were mean and vocal about it, but it got toxic, I think, when identity politics comes about, right? When the term is thrown around. And the argument of, is it identity politics that ruined Star Wars or Last Jedi? And I have, that's where I sort of, I guess my politics lean of like, I don't know. It's hard. I don't want to be ignorant to it. Did they hire females and other ethnicities just to do it? Is where I get hung up on. Like, right, I don't know if I wasn't in the meetings. I don't know what the actual from top thing was. No, you need one black person, one Asian person, one. Like, I don't know what the hell actually was happening in those casting rooms, but I do know it's been Disney's MO to sort of diversify their films, absolutely, for representation. And so, look, that's where I get problematic. To me, what's really frustrating about Last Jedi has nothing to do with what the race or the gender of the characters were. The problem with Last Jedi are complete plot problems.
That's what I've been saying,
and it's like,
man.
And I'll see people who sort of defend, like, no, we're not a sexist, we're not sexist in our hate of toxicity. We just don't like the identity politics politics of genders and race being forced down our throats. And it's like I'm confused, like what really is the problem? But either way, like that's we sort of touched upon the first episode when we may get there. I want to get to the first topic at hand, then we can sort of pivot back to this if we need to.
Right.
What I'm frustrated by is like, okay, there's clearly a toxic fandom. There's clearly sort of a sexist group. I think it's a smaller minority. I'm not calling anybody out by specific. Some people assume I'm calling out certain channels. Like, no. But there are definitely more, assertive, racist, and sexist people who aren't into this sort of new era of Star Wars. But what frustrates me is the biggest vocal critics of those are now out bullying Anthony Daniels. And to me, what's really just crazy is this sort of story is just proves sort of the hypocrisy of like, everybody's sort of a jerk on Twitter. Everybody bullies everybody, and none of it should be okay is really the moral of the story. And so I want to get into the story because we can then sort of branch off and do our topics. But this sort of came in. I saw this on Twitter from Data Racer, who sort of put together this thread due to an article on Express, and then a lot of the commenters and Twitter and stuff who engaged with it. But the main article was that C-3PO actor Anthony Daniels reveals his disappointment with the new films. Just to sort of give those who haven't seen this, to sort of give it a little bit more just so you understand where this is coming from. He went on to sort of express his frustration that, he's not entirely happy with those films. Well, yes, I do understand why the fans aren't happy. It speaks to a devotion that they care so much that they mind if someone messes with it. I understand people being critical of the films. I know it's been particularly difficult for him, as in Mark Hamill lately, because the new movies haven't given him much to do. I certainly recognize that and can relate to it. In these new movies, I have felt like I felt like a table decoration, and that is difficult because I recognize this character C-3PO is worth so much more. But I understand it as a whole film, not a feature about C-3PO. That is just my personal disappointment. I get paid whether or not he does anything, but it would be nice for him to have a purpose. And so this is I don't see his comment actually tearing apart Last Jedi or the film itself. He's just annoyed he's not in it. And that's sort of the reaction that I think is a valid thing for a person to be like, I'm in this metal suit all day. It'd be nice if I'm actually have a purpose to be in this film and the legacy of my character who I believe in. But then to put all the cards out and we're clear, there were two other articles as sort of this Express article sort of is hyping up his new book, I Am C-3PO, where he also admits his real feelings on his co-stars, and then he sort of admits to sort of how frustrated he was on set, reacting that they sort of ignored him. He was there in the middle can, and no one really wanted to be there with him or invite him out for dinners. And after shooting, he was just tired, and he gently wept the first night in his hotel. Really, sort of the sad story of what his experience, especially on the first Star Wars, was. If he felt very bullied and left out. And Mark Hamill was one who was sort of there to actually help him get through it. And then he sort of calls out Harrison Ford for being what everyone sort of calls Harrison Ford, just dry and doesn't really, very wry. And then says Carrie Fisher was nice, but sort of calls out the fact that she was clearly going through her own mental issues throughout the set, but that we loved her anyway. And then so that's sort of where it is. And so then he talks about how George Lucas was going to replace his voice with Richard Dreyfuss. I was shocked and so hurt. George always had in his mind that he would be a sleazy Bronx car dealer, not a fussy British butler, but never told me. Perhaps I gave George what he didn't know he needed, but I would never have returned to the role just to do physical mechanics. Anyway, the long story is he talks about this was very difficult, devastating. People loved the film and character, but I was shoved out of sight. Remembering that's because when the film opened, they didn't want people to think there was an actor in it. They wanted them to think it was a robot, so they sort of ignored his involvement. And let's be clear, because I want to get all this out, because a lot of the comments that are sort of I'm going to point to, people are just saying, "Oh, get over it, old man. Like it's time for someone else to be in the movie." Is sort of what they're saying. But I don't know, man. Sounds like Anthony Daniels got a pretty rough end of the stick. At the same time, it does seem like Anthony Daniels was probably difficult at times. But the dude was stuck in a robotic suit for every day of his life without his face being there. Before we sort of get into the fandom bullying him of sort of these comments, I'm curious your take, Danny. Where do you stand on sort of Anthony Daniels? Does he have a right to be frustrated? Does he have a right to sort of go back and relive his history as sort of in this film to sort of share his non-glamorous side of it all? What do you think?
Well, I mean, he has a right to say whatever he wants to because he was in all of these movies. I mean, even small role, big role, he was in all of them. So I think he has a right to say his opinion. Me personally, I feel, oh, God, I'd use me personally. Oh, I got to shake that off. I don't want to ever use me personally. So,
yeah, come on.
You know
nerd,
why.
Yeah, nerd, what's it called? Nerd Crew, yeah.
Yes, I know. Oh, okay, anyways.
Me personally.
No, but, the way I feel about it is when it comes to Anthony Daniels, C-3PO is an important character, but I feel like his importance, to be honest with you, is sort of magnetized in the first film more than anything else, in A New Hope in Star Wars, because he is, and for those who don't know, George Lucas patterned the first Star Wars film after The Hidden Fortress from Akira Kurosawa. And if you're a film fan, you have to watch Kurosawa films. They're just incredible films. I mean, all modern anime samurai movies were heavily inspired by Akira Kurosawa,
Yep.
and Lucas is a big fan. So he was him and 3PO were the first two sort of characters that were even like focused on in the first act of the film. So he's important. And then in Return of the Jedi, of course, he had that scene where he translated for the Ewoks. So he's been important as far as being an interpreter. But if the story does not call for an interpreter, for a protocol droid, then he doesn't have to be there. And to be honest, he wasn't really needed in the prequels either. I mean, the idea of Anakin created 3PO is such a shoehorned retcon, because there's no hints to this at all of Vader and 3PO in the regular trilogy, in the original trilogy. And when I first saw Phantom Menace, it didn't bother me, but as I grew up, I kind of realized, like, yeah, that was kind of shoehorned in by Lucas to connect the old movies. So I don't think he should be complaining about not being in the new movies. However, his complaints about the use of legacy characters, I think, is one that should be discussed, because when you're doing the sequel trilogy, in my opinion, they only had two choices. Number one, they set it many years in the future and they don't use any of the characters from the old trilogy and kind of do their own thing, or they give the old trilogy characters one more adventure. And I think the reason why Last Jedi got so much disdain compared to Force Awakens, the main complaint about Force Awakens was that it was too much like the original Star Wars. I feel like that's an accurate opinion, but it was still a good movie. I liked Force Awakens. I genuinely did.
Me too, yeah.
But what was the big thing? Han Solo got one more adventure. He got to shoot his plasma, whatever. I can't believe I forgot the blaster. Got to shoot the blaster.
Mm-hmm.
He got to have a great time. It was a great movie, a great time. And I think people wanted Luke to have that one last adventure, and he never did. And that's really what bothered people.
Yes.
3PO, I mean, he's going to get one big hurrah in Episode 9. He's all over the trailers. So I don't know, man. I would just be happy with that. I mean, I guess maybe he's been building all this up for like 30 years, of being frustrated at certain things.
Yeah, well, let's not forget the new movies. He's given a red arm, which is really no purpose. And then, what have we paid off the red arm yet? Did they explain it?
They explained it in one of the comics. I mean, they do weird stuff to get you to buy the comics.
Yeah, I mean, so it's just, again, another excuse of C-3PO is just there to sell toys. But they gave him the red arm, and then they literally, it's like Poe just tells him to shut up in the next one. So it's like they really have given him nothing to do. So at least they have finally figured out, okay, well, let's actually, this is the only character who's been, R2-D2, C-3PO, the only ones who've been there through the whole thing. We should attempt to have some sort of payoff. And I thought the best scene in Last Jedi was R2-D2 because of that payoff. And apparently that scene, it wasn't Rian Johnson. Someone else pushed for that scene to happen. It was it Hamill or Lucas? And when I remember something to that scene where it's sort of R2-D2 finally wakes up to sort of show him Leia, to me was the only genuine moment of that. I'm like, oh, wow, yes, you hit me. That's a clever way to use the nostalgia. Like, it's a payoff. That wasn't even, I don't think, Rian Johnson's pushing. And so even Hamill was the one, he talks about in one of these articles, apparently, when he walks into The Last Jedi, he wasn't even supposed to acknowledge C-3PO. He's just going to walk by him. And it was Hamill was like, no. That's ridiculous. Luke would look at C-3PO. And the fact that, like, Mark Hamill, I get his frustration because he's sort of there like, come on, I'm finally coming back to Star Wars, and you're not even like treating my character with the respect that it deserves to sort of know who he actually should be saying hello to. And I have to tell you, I can see why people are mad and upset with Rian Johnson. Now, Rian Johnson clearly heard it and did it, thank God. But that's the problem here. So the legacy characters argument is very valid. Don't put them in your movie if you're not going to respect them, and I agree. And I think you're right. Han Solo got respected. I think they set it up well, but then Luke never got his moment to shine. He was sort of continuing to play the whiner.
And you know what's crazy is all these like reboot of old franchises, all of them are trying to do the same thing. They're trying to use the legacy characters to transition into the new characters.
Yes.
That's what they're trying to do. Terminator Dark Fate didn't really do a good job. Star Wars definitely didn't do a good job because the reality is nobody's over. I'm going to use the wrestling term. Nobody's popular. Fans don't care about Rey, Poe, Finn. Kylo Ren is the only character that fans care about. And I'm not talking about the 30-year-old like Star Wars fans. I'm talking about like I have friends of mine who have kids, and kids don't care. Dude, my friend has like a 5-year-old and 11-year-old, and they're more into Ahsoka Tano than they are
Yep.
freaking Rey. Like that's just how it is. Nobody cares. I'm sorry. This is most fans don't care about the new characters but Kylo Ren.
Right,
Which
and it's
means
not because she's a woman. That's what gets me so
no,
frustrated.
it's not.
And that is where things get so distracted in the argument of like, yes, there's a small minority of people who do, and I see it sometimes in my comments. They do exist, but they're a minority. But yes, I agree. There's a lot of anti Last Jedi people there. It's not about her being a woman. But that's the problem. Like she's just a boring character that no one's really, not enough. The masses haven't related to as much to everybody else. Anyway, so
I just wanted to say that
go ahead,
the only franchise that did it right was Creed. Creed is the only
Yep.
one. The Creed is the only one that transitioned from Rocky into Creed to where now we care about Creed. We care about Donnie. We look at the movie. We see how, he's having a baby that could end up being deaf. This is like a real issue that people in the real world deal with. And we don't get that kind of sympathy on characters like Rey and Poe and Finn. Like they haven't really struggled like the Creed has. And that's really the main problem with this trilogy. From the beginning, I've said it. The main problem when this is all said and done is that there's no direction.
Yeah, no, you're right. And even the acting in that was Mike B. Jordan and what's her name?
Oh,
Tasha Thompson.
Incredible.
They're great. They were a great duo out of nowhere. You're sort of like, yes, awesome. You're absolutely right. Even though Creed 2 isn't as good, you're still rooting for these new characters. And Creed 2 sort of did the problem of let's put more old nostalgia in instead of like actually giving him a movie of his own. But that's a great comparison, and I agree. But so anyway, so we have all this fandom mad. Everyone's mad, and everyone's blaming the fans for Star Wars being divisive and saying, oh, it's all these sexist, racist fans, which I don't think is actually accurate. I think it's people who just don't like the movie, especially Last Jedi, because it doesn't have a vision. It's like that no one knows. Kathleen Kennedy, Rian Johnson, J.J. Abrams, all of them are sort of sharing visions and changing as they go, and that's not how you do a big trilogy like this. But my point of where I want to bring all this up is this Anthony Daniels story is relevant because, as sort of this was brought up by Data Racer, who compiled these tweets, these are the fans now that are like, oh yeah, Star Wars fans, the racist ones are the worst. Go away. Now, here they are. Every time Anthony Daniels talk, I care less and less. It's time to stop feeling bad for bullying Anthony Daniels for his cryptic tweets. Anthony Daniels realizing he's never been the main character in 42 Star Wars, with singing poor me voice. 60 years of actors, stop wondering. 60-year-old actors, stop wondering why you aren't the main characters in general action adventure franchise challenge. I'm equal opportunity white man bully. At least someone's interested in character, unlike anyone who really wants to pay a paycheck. I hate white men. I just think it's funny how old white men can't fathom being the center of attention.
God,
we get a new female Jedi and 2 POC leads and all people of color leads, and all these people can do is whine. Old white men. I mean, this is why we're divided. Let's go back to ignoring the OT cast and shitty men, y'all. Please bring back peace to my TL. I don't even know what that is. Timeline. Thank you, Anthony Daniels, Mark Hamill being irrelevant in the sequel trilogy. We can't go 1 week in peace without men giving their terrible opinions on Star Wars. Anthony Daniels, I'm upset C-3PO isn't more important. Literally every Star Wars character, when C-3PO speaks, shut up. 3PO. I mean, the new sequel did technically do that. I'm just an old grumpy man, being an old grumpy man. Nothing new here. This is just frustrating.
I mean, he might be an old grumpy man, whatever. Maybe he is. The issue is when they start bringing the race card into it, and that's what I'm really sick of. Like, what does it matter if Anthony Daniels is white, black, orange, pink, purple? It doesn't matter. Like, it's sickening to me because these are the same fans, right? And this is what makes it so funny to me, is that there's such a level of hypocrisy here. These are the same fans that are fighting against the other fans. Let's just call the other fans, I don't want to say the fandom menace. It's not really those guys, but they're a part of it. Like the fans who have been very anti-Disney and have been very old school. Like, we love the older movies. We hate what you're doing with Star Wars. Like that group, they're kind of doing the same things that they accuse that group of doing. Like, you're going to sit there and get mad because that group, right? These YouTubers, they'll make videos about how, Little Mermaid's black and this and that, and they'll bring the race card into it. Meanwhile, they'll sit there and they'll bring the race car into Anthony Daniels. So the hypocrisy of it all is they're sitting there and claiming that the other fans are, quote, toxic when they're doing the exact same thing. It's just like when the other side complains about SJWs, then they act like SJWs. Like, if you're going to complain about an SJW, brother, don't act like an SJW. And that's why I have always chosen not to be a part of any group, because I see the hypocrisy and the immaturity in both of them. And plus, I really don't care that much, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, but it's like, even you're right. You're absolutely right, and race should have nothing to do with it on either side. And if you want to fight for diversity and representation, great, but then don't say, yeah, good riddance to the white old men. That's not going to help any change happen. It's going to do quite the opposite. It's going to create a lot of anger, hate, and war. And you just got to like that's the biggest frustration for me. But beyond that, it's bullying. All these people, like Jenny Nicholson, who I worked with and I respect still. I like her content a lot. But she's trying to be funny. Excuse my 2 cents, but if old actors can't play ball about not being the main character, they should leave the ball and go home. And then other these blue check marks, as we sort of said, people in the say, people were mad at me when I said this, but I was right. I hope 3PO dies. I can't wait for C-3PO to get cooked. I can't wait for him to cook. He should die. He was more of a talking prop. I honestly didn't know Anthony Daniels was still alive. Like all these people, I hope he dies, yada, yada. This is just, I definitely want him to die now and stay dead out of spite.
That's just dude, what they're just, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, bro, but that's such disgusting and repulsive behavior. Like,
yes.
I want him to die over his opinion. Like, and again, this is that freaking what I keep talking about over and over again on World of Geekdom. It's the people on the internet who say all these things on the internet because they're behind the comfort of their beautiful little keyboard and monitor and PC and laptop or wherever they're at.
Yep.
They would never, ever say this. If Anthony Daniels doing a panel at a convention and somebody said that to him, get out of here, man. Like they're such freaking roaches, those people, dude. Like, and you know what's it goes for both sides too. Like, as much as I am pissed off at what Rian Johnson did to episode 8, I don't want the man to die. I mean, dude, get out. It's so
I want him to
stupid.
fix it. I want these characters to get the due they were, and that's what's so frustrating. You read these tweets of people who are just bashing C-3PO as a character. Look, he was never my favorite character as a kid. I thought he was like a whiny character, but you do realize like he's bringing that's an important role in that part. He's cyborg human relations. He's
Right.
Overly emotional and sort of cheesy in that purpose, and you kind of realize, oh, there's something really brilliant to this character that we just keep sort of knocking, but we really miss and appreciate. And he does deserve the respect as other characters do. So does R2-D2. And so this idea that you can't give that character something actually to do, this is bad writing. It's not about anything else. And for these people to sort of mock him, like, oh, go get out of here, old man. You don't understand how Hollywood works. We're moving in the new cast. If you don't want to play ball, get out of here. I think that's just really rude. And it's like, no, if you're going to put C-3PO in a movie, he shouldn't just be there as a prop. There's more to that character than just to be the table prop. And I think, or give him the opportunity to know, hey, you're just in a scene. You're just we're using you for that one moment. But no, they like have him around. They're carting him around like he's part of the thing. And if he's not part of the thing, then don't put him in part of the thing. Like you don't get to say, yes, C-3PO is in all 9 Star Wars unless it actually means something and there was a point to it. You know what I mean? And that's where I think this is frustrating because it's like them trolling him now. What's the difference between them trolling him and trolling, Rose? It's like, honestly though, what is just we're saying, oh no, it's all racist because they're going after Kelly Marie Tran. No, I don't think so. I think yes, there was a very small minority was. I don't think it was as blown up as everyone says it was. It was enough to bother her, and that upsets me. No one, anyone in with human decency would acknowledge, of course, we shouldn't be sending her racist tweets and telling her to get the hell out of the franchise.
Of course,
but it's more
not,
the
man.
character. It's more the character and just sort of the choices and what is the point? We have all these new old characters that we want respected. Who are these new characters? Why are they here? And no offense to Rose, but that character was pointless. Her and Finn literally did nothing that was necessary for the sake of the plot and Less Jedi. They are completely poorly written, pointless subplot that went nowhere. And it's like, yeah, of course I don't like her. I would have loved when they announced her at Star Wars Celebration. They hyped her up like she's gonna be a new fan favorite. Yada. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm not down for this. She seemed really cute and funny, like sweet. Like I was like, all right, fun. She'll be like a funny new supporting character that we root for. What did they give her to do?
Well, it's annoying to me because, and this goes for anybody, it doesn't matter what side you're on, attacking an actor over the way their character was being written.
Yes.
I mean, you've got to be some kind of sick, mouth-breathing barnacle to behave like that. Like Kelly Marie Tran, the human being, I don't know her, but I know that she didn't deserve to be attacked over a fictional character she played. That's almost like if somebody were to get mad at, I don't know, mad
Anthony Daniels for being an annoying robot.
Well, that's a good point. But I meant like get mad at like Josh Brolin and throw eggs at him in the streets because he destroyed half the universe.
Sure,
that's not Josh Brolin. It's that kind of stuff. Like I've never understood. I think people like that have a bit of a screw loose in their head, bro. To be real with you, because that's all that makes sense to me.
So anyway, this is connected in that if you're gonna go out, don't be like the trolls and go after Anthony Daniels and tell him that he hopes he dies and you should just deal with it, old man. These sort of reactions to me are just as annoying and just make the fandom toxic because we're just going off saying he's useless and stupid and he's a prop, who cares? There's a guy behind that robot who takes it very seriously. In fact, that's part of the sort of the other story of this. He and Kenny Baker did not get along. And there's sort of this long-going feud where like they hated each other. Kenny Baker, who played R2D2, and so and they call and when I went to sort of do more research because also in this book I am C-3PO, which he'll talk about this. He talks about how Daniels Baker thought Daniels looked down on him and called him a piece of S, gave him slurs and called him little man and a bunch of like unfair things here. And the two behind the scenes, they didn't really get to interact or talk because he's stuck in a box as R2D2 and he's stuck in this robot suit, can't really see, and they're both clearly stressed and frustrated in these like small costumes, and then they just didn't get along. Kenny Baker wanted to go on tour. He saw sort of the appeal of like, these fans love us, let's go on tour and like make money. He saw that sort of business appeal, and Anthony was like, no, I don't want to do that, screw all that. And that clearly created a divide because he wanted money. I don't know I don't know who to side with. I didn't know either of these guys, but it was clear they're like oil and water. They did not get along. They didn't want to be around each other. And this sort of has gone around that both of them have been difficult to work with. And so that sort of created this other sort of piece to the story that's important if we're going to really talk about bashing Anthony Daniels. If you're talking about a public, personal story or moment you have where he was rude to you or you didn't like how he treated Kenny Baker, then that's one thing if you want to sort of call that out civilly. But I don't see that either. I wanted to make sure we did at least sort of acknowledge the fact that there is sort of drama in Anthony Daniels and Kenny Baker's timelines, because if you really go back, it was just sort of, there's a lot of really mean stuff they've said to each other over the years. So, he comes with a history of that. But that said, him as C-3PO, I got to respect him. He is the only one who's been there 9 years. And I do think he has created an iconic character that was important for this franchise. And I do think he's been wasted. We'll see how it goes in Rise of Skywalker. But he has absolutely been wasted between the prequels and the new trilogy. And he has been used as a prop. And I think Anthony Daniels has every right to be annoyed by that. And for him to sort of assume that, I'll just not do it, put someone else in the suit. I can see why he doesn't want to do that and why he'd be frustrated to complain here. So all these people bullying and sort of trolling him, saying, get over it, you're annoying, you're just a grumpy old man. This is the same toxic fandom you're criticizing on the other side.
Right.
And it's important that we point this out to sort of show it's like, look, if you don't want toxic fandom, then don't hit him either. Just say your critical piece, be civil about it, and move the hell on. But this Twitter toxicity goes both ways, and it's important that we call out both sides, because I've called out the toxic Star Wars side. I've done a couple videos on it, but I wanted to prove when the other side is being equally as toxic, because it happens.
All the time.
Yeah. Did you want to add anything else on this before we wrap up?
It's just really hypocritical and immature, if you ask me. I mean, I have been a Star Wars fan since I was 4 years old. I've loved this franchise so much, but I've never felt the need to personally attack an actor for his opinion at all. Like, it happens so often in fandoms, and I don't know if it's because people nowadays have been raised on the internet. Obviously, you and I come from a different generation where we had internet later on in our maybe young adult teen years, but early childhood, there really was no internet. At least I didn't have it. I was poor. Prodigy was all we had at one time. Nowadays with social media, I feel like people are growing up with, and this is kind of some deep psychological stuff, with creating their own identity. Like, the real person that's typing trash on the internet is not the same person behind the keyboard. And a lot of times it has to do with sort of their upbringing, and being behind a keyboard all of your life since you're like 4 creates this sort of false reality where you can be whatever you want to be. And that's where I think this comes from, because most civil adults don't behave like this. And it's just an internet thing. It's very weird. And
it seems like a Twitter thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's very hypocritical. It's just very hypocritical that they're going to sit there and attack that man for trashing the sequel trilogy or whatever, when the people who have been trashing it are called toxic. Like, they're so defensive of these movies. Like, do you own Disney stock? Like, what is the problem? I own Disney stock, believe it or not, but I still trash them all the time. I own very little. But I mean, it's just really hypocritical, and it's annoying to me, bro. Like, last week, as you know, I wasn't even around. I was at Disney. I had people over here, and I was so happy to be off of Twitter for that week, because it was really nice. It really was. And I think some people should just take a break from it, really.
No, you absolutely are correct there. Everyone should take a break off Twitter. I try to do my best to, especially on the weekend. Twitter is a cancer, as Spider Geronimo just said.
Oh man, it's bad.
I want to call out. Thank you, Vitali Goose. The Last Jedi mishandled the established lore and characters, including the newcomers, and the story took us nowhere. It's as simple as that. Thanks for the great content. Please keep it up. No, thank you. And that's, I think, sums up sort of that is a fair criticism of the Last Jedi, and that's why people are upset. Now, I do think there are fan communities and others who get too aggressive and they care too much about a movie that they sort of kick up a lot of sort of hate about it, where it's like, look, I understand we're upset. I understand these movies are important to you. You have a YouTube presence, or a Twitter handle. Great. I understand saying your opinion. You want to tell somebody, but I do think we have to be careful of just like both sides need to be careful of just sort of getting so toxic. We're just like bashing an actor for the sake of a movie that they did, or even Rian Johnson. I still, I don't have a problem with Rian Johnson personally. I agree on Twitter. He sort of handled a lot of the sort of demise of Last Jedi perhaps poorly, but it's how at the same time, like I completely relate to that, where it's like, how else are you supposed to attack when everyone, react when everyone's attacking you nonstop, saying you've destroyed Star Wars? There's a lot of people who still enjoyed Last Jedi, so it's subjective. We got to sort of allow the creators to sort of do what they want. If you don't like it, then don't go see the next one. Don't support it. But this hate on either side, as Yoda said, we all know where it leads. It leads to the dark side. We need to be better. And that's the point of sort of having these conversations so we can explain, attempt to sort of, hopefully to the audience that's watching, explain and hear your side, but then try and find that sort of middle ground so we can get it out here and not take it on Twitter and be nice to each other. That's the goal I want to try and achieve.
I wish.
Small.
I wish.
We'll start small, Danny, and then we'll get it. We'll get it there. At least a community ourselves.
Well, I think a lot of them got to grow up, man. I think if they grow up, have a couple kids, maybe have some real struggles, lose a couple jobs like me and a few of us have in the past, then they'll learn that life is not easy, man.
No, maturity helps a lot, and I think there's a lot of young, immature folks out there who just want to react anonymmously to stuff like this, and they don't realize that it is toxic and it is creating, it's not helping fandom. And when I did movie fights, my goal wasn't to try and make people fight like this. It was try to have conversations and have fun with it and show that, yes, we're passionate about something. Let's talk about it. But at the end of every movie fight, we always shook hands, had fun, we laughed. It's important that we sort of bring that back to this community instead of everyone anonymously behind a keyboard yelling at each other and not then having that sort of, yeah, it's cool. We good? We're cool. That was fun. That's what's the difference now. So many people are actually taking the passionate sort of takes that hot takes people have as sort of gospel and then running with it or saying that's not right. This is actually right. And that's where I think we just have to be careful of fandoms and culture of just being, talk about it. Let's talk about it. There are places you can talk about it. Here, other channels, get it out there and try not to sort of bash and tag your least favorite actors and sort of get to them because it's not helping us as a society and it's not going to help movies. I honestly think, it's part of the reason the Game of Thrones duo left, which I think was good they left. But who wants to make a movie now in Star Wars? There's probably a really good director who is now like, you know what? I'd love to work in Star Wars, but man, that fandom is really hard to please.
But that I just want to step in on that. That's BS, bro. And I said that in my video the other day in the sense of that's very cowardly, if you ask me. If you're a good filmmaker and a good storyteller, all the fans want is good movies with good characters. That's it. And if you're afraid of being attacked on YouTube or ridiculed or whatever, you got to get out of the business then, if you ask me, man, because that's just how it is.
Don't you think Rian Johnson thought he was doing that?
I don't know what was going through his head, bro.
He's a really good filmmaker. Knives Out is a wonderful movie. I like all his other work. So my point is, like, he's the guy who came forward and did it. And then, look, he got thrown to the wolves on a video that he and others are happy with, mind you. He's not what the bulk of Star Wars fans are happy with. But I would argue he and others have said, you know what? You did have the balls to sort of make it. And so that's where I'm confused. Like you say, I hear you. You're right. You can't be a coward and do it. I wish someone would have the guts to come forward and say, screw the fans, screw Kathleen Kennedy. I'm going to tell the right Star Wars film because I'm born to do this. Like, yes, of course that's what I want. But the reality is I could see that there could be a good storyteller who's like, yeah, I'd love to do that. But man, dealing with Disney, dealing with the fans, it's just too much. I'm not going to be able to make the film I want to make because the fans are going to worry the corporate's then going to worry this. You know what I mean?
Well, that's true. That's a good point. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just saying that, like, if you have a good story and a good idea, just make the damn movie. And if the fans bitch, let them bitch. But I mean, just make the movie and give it a shot. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You're gonna get paid well. Why,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
it ain't-
I assume you would, but you may not
I would
ever
hope
work
so.
again. Look at oh no, Lord and Miller went and won an Oscar after they got canned from Star Wars, so there is hope. Uh,
Right. And you know, Ron Howard has a tremendous history of movies. They're not all great, but he's got a lot of good ones. So I mean,
yeah, and
I
he's
don't
got a
know.
working daughter who will pay him when he's pay for him when he's in the retirement community. He's got it great.
Right.
He's doing a lot of good stuff. But for real, Ron Howard's a legend. He can do movies to the day he dies, just out of the legendary status he's done of his old films. I mean, even you go back to Splash and stuff. I love Ron Howard. I do think he came in to help them.
Right.
I think if Solo hadn't have been about Han Solo, people would have had fun with that movie. The problem was it was sort of this forced, prequel thing. But we don't have to get into the Solo fight. We can see that for another topic. But I have no problem with Ron Howard. I just think he came into a movie and he did something that I think I have to applaud him for. He came into a fire and attempted to put it out.
Right.
And he's like good friends with Kennedy, with Lucas, and he's sort of like, look, I'll try and solve this. I've been trying to do a big budget action movie. He probably learned a ton, and he got to bring in some of his friends. It is what it is. I don't blame Ron Howard for that at all. He was
Right.
doing. I blame Kathleen Kennedy for that, because you don't bring
Yeah,
in Lord and
she's-
Miller and then not be prepared for Lord and Miller. You know what I mean? You either
She's just not a good leader, bro. Like she's a good producer for individual films, but as far as being a leader of Star Wars, she's not the right person, if you ask me.
Well, I think you're right, and sadly I've defended her in the past, but now seeing the actions, I think it's more just she doesn't understand how to work with creatives. She needs to
Right.
control it. And in previous sort of movies, she's working with Spielberg and people who she lets lead, right? And in this instance, now she's hiring Lord and Miller, and then she realizes, oh wait, you're not doing what Spielberg does. Okay, I got to get involved. I got to take over. And so that's the problem of like, she's not showing her professionalism and sort of knowing how to vet directors. And that's the biggest problem right now. It's like you can't hire these huge A-list talent that you make these huge announcements for, get excited about, and then not let them make their movie. You got to know before you hire them and make the announcement that they're going to deliver the movie you all are waiting for, and she does not know how to deliver that. And that is a huge problem for her and for Lucasfilm and for Disney that I can't imagine they're not paying attention to. At the same time, I do think there's a lot of eyes on, will they fire her? I don't think they can. I think that's a very complicated topic that we should talk about in a future episode of what do you do if you're Kathleen Kennedy or Disney to sort of right the wrong? Because at a certain point, Bob Iger, I actually have this article handy here. Bob Iger is still admitting that the slowdown is a Disney priority. Less is more. I mean, this is not a good state for Star Wars to be in when the CEO of Disney is saying less is more. You'd think you'd be able to make this constantly a movie a year like Marvel and still be making money, and they're not. So that's very telling, and I think you have to at some point blame Kathleen Kennedy because she's in charge of it. She is, whether you want to hate her or not. All right, well, there we go. This was fun. A lot. Thanks for the comments in the comments down there. Anything? I'm going to end on you, Danny. Any final words you want to part on this topic of this toxic fandom from the other side?
I just feel like that's again. I don't like picking sides. That's what I'm saying. I just like giving my own opinion on things, just being me. But I feel like it's never going to go away. I feel like toxicity on the internet, because of what it is, because of what social media is, it's never going to go away. So I think us normies, or whatever you want to call them, people who don't want to get involved in toxicity, should just ignore it. To be honest with you, hopefully, Anthony Daniels won't take this personally. But one thing I will say, right, is that if you're out there and you're thinking about leaving like a rude comment to somebody, understand something. They might be having a bad day, like you don't know. And if you're leaving this rude comment, sometimes you should think before you comment, And I know that my words might not help the masses. Maybe one or two people listening might actually take something from it and be like, yeah, maybe it could. Because, us being content creators, we get crap every single day. Every single day, there's always some. I'm not gonna curse, but you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
Insert your curse word here. Who has to say something that just irritates me, and we have to learn how to block it out. But sometimes you just can't. Sometimes it does get to you. You know what I mean? And they're human beings, dude. Kelly Marie Tran, she's a person. She picked the role for Star Wars. Dude, if I was her and somebody said, do you want to play this character? It's Star Wars. I would have said yes, even if it's a bad character. I get to be in Star Wars. Is it fanboyism? Maybe. Maybe she's a fangirl. I can't blame her for doing the character. You shouldn't blame her. Blame the writers if you want. Blame Rian Johnson, but don't blame her.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well said. And to echo that, everyone might have a kid, might have a sick kid, might have just lost their job, might have a sick parent. who knows what everybody's going through something is what I've learned going through my own stuff. And while I, in the early days of that period, I was woe is me. I quickly realized that a lot of people who are helping me were going through their own trouble. And so reaching out to others instead of piling on is really the key. I'm telling you, to happiness, positivity, you'll work wonders in your life. You'll have a better support system around you if you're there for others. Going online anonymously to sort of bash an actor, to tag them, to feel better about yourself will not make you feel better about yourself. The opposite will make you feel better about yourself, because then people will be proud to know you and be around you. So everyone can make that change. I hope we can affect a couple listeners here and there. They are listening. I know someone there has done it. I've done it in the past. We've all done it emotionally at one time in our life. But I think we have to be careful of allowing Twitter, that gives us that access, not taking advantage of that access and pushing someone on a bad day even worse. Like you said, just because of a script. It's not necessarily their choice or their call. They just want to be part of something fun. And the script in Last Jedi was really where the problems are. So I understand why people are mad at Rian Johnson, because he wrote the script.
And what sucks too is, as an actor, you can try and fight against it, but you might not always win. Look at Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill complained about his character how many times to Rian Johnson. Sometimes you just can't beat the system. And when you sign that contract with Disney on the dotted line, you sign it. You can't just sit there and walk off the set and say, I'm not doing it. I mean, maybe you can, but they might sue you, or who knows what else they can do. So, you know what I mean? It just sucks. That's how it is nowadays, but that's just how it is, And at the end of the day, I'm gonna be real with you. At the end of the day, man, we have the original trilogy, and that's my heart. That is my heart, the original 3 films.
Yeah, and there's parts. I like the Duel of the Fate scene in Phantom Menace. There's a couple.
There's a couple scenes in the prequels, yeah.
And I like when Kylo Ren stops the blaster in midair at the beginning of Force Awakens. Like, there's a.
Oh, I love that whole sequence.
There's a couple. Still, like, Star Wars can still give us goosebumps, and I'm excited for Mandalorian. I hope it's good. The Star Wars universe isn't going to die. There's no way Disney's going to ever. They paid $4 billion. They can't afford to let it die. But I do. There's a lot of comments saying, of course, Kathleen Kennedy should be fired. Someone needs to be. I do think someone needs to be held accountable for the lack of creativity in Lucasfilm. That's what's bothering me so much right now. No one has any guts to do something different. What they did is they announced a million prequels and standalone films of, let's do Han Solo and do Obi-Wan and do Boba Fett. Not a single original concept came out of that sort of brainstorm, because it was all, and that might be Bob Iger's fault. That might be Alan Horn's fault. I don't know who at Disney actually set the parameters of what they were allowed to greenlight or not. But at the end of the day, Kathleen Kennedy was responsible, because she's the head of Lucasfilm. And so she's the one who's fighting or vetting or fighting against the topics that are. And so far, I think she has not done very well. And so I do think at some point someone's going to have to step up and take that hit, or she needs to really win the next 2 before they do it. Because even if Mandalorian's a hit, you can't credit Kathleen Kennedy for that. You know what I mean? Like, that feels like that's Favreau and Filoni stepping up to really. I mean, I'm sure she's been involved, but it feels like Favreau and Filoni came in. But the other thing I wondered as we wrap up, do you think Favreau just took the Boba Fett storyline, the standalone movie, and then was like, oh, I can do better. Let's make this a whole movie and make it not Boba Fett? Or do you think,
as long as it's better than Lion King.
Well, see, but I think Lion King, he just got distracted by the effects, because Jungle Book was good.
No, I mean, Jon Favreau's a great director, but I watch Lion King and I'm like, see, I'm pretty good at sniffing out paycheck movies. And for those who don't know what a paycheck movie is a film that a director makes purely for the paycheck. Examples would be Godfather Part 3 by Francis Ford Coppola. That's been known.
Yep.
The Faculty by
Arnold doing T3 Rise of the Machines. He and Cameron have acknowledged he did it for the money.
Arnold doing all those Terminator sequels. Yeah, and that's a paycheck movie to me, man. Lion King was a paycheck movie, if you ask me. It's like, okay, do Lion King, we'll give you Mandalorian, and that's probably what happened. So I am looking forward to it. I think he might have. I don't know.
I was going to say, I only disagree in that I think Favreau was so into the visual effects in Jungle Book, which I think he did really brilliantly, because he adapted the book versus the Disney movie. And then you're right, they offered him a big, huge paycheck. But then he also was like, man, when else am I going to get Disney's paychecks to work with the best VFX artists around? Like, I do believe he got very excited at the idea of building the technology. Do you know what I mean? Of making, like, because it looks amazing. I will give it credit. They look soulless and crazy. But I've looked at scenes of Lion King where I'm like, holy crap, that looks like a National Geographic documentary, and it's all fake, and it blows my mind in that regard. So I think he just got so hung up in that he's like, oh, cool, I'm going to learn all how to do anything. Because after you make The Lion King, you really could make anything you wanted. So I hope
No, and
I hope
maybe
it was
he'll
for
learn
good
from,
purpose. Yeah, go ahead.
and maybe he'll learn from that for future films. Like maybe he'll take that technology and use it for future films to make better movies. I mean, dude, we saw 1991 Linda Hamilton a few days ago on screen. I couldn't even believe it. I'm like, wow, she's hot again. All
Yeah,
right.
we that's a whole nother topic. We'll talk about that. I'll be talking about that later today. Dark Fate and its box office bomb and how that happened. So tune in later. But
Right.
that's enough for now. Thank you for joining the middle ground, Danny. Always good to have you. Wah 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 wah. There's my graphic. Wah wah. Danny, you can go follow him over at the World of Geekdom on
Yes, thank you.
YouTube or Geekdom 101. Thanks for coming, man. Always good to talk to you. Let me know anything you need, and if you want to come back anytime, you're always welcome. Anything you want to
All
mention or plug?
No, man, always a good time. I have been doing some videos on Star Wars, like my opinions on things over on World of Geekdom. And I am doing a few more. I have these videos called Speakdoms where I talk about like real life stuff, and a lot of stuff I talk about is social media and the internet and psychology and just real life stuff, not even like movies and stuff like that. And I've got some good videos coming out on cancel culture, for example, and things like that. So it should be good for people to check those out because I have pretty strong opinions on that kind of stuff.
You know I do too. So anytime you need help
I
or want to do it,
know.
hit me up. I love it. Go check. I'm scrolling through as you were talking, so check out all his content
It's not
over
up
there.
yet, but it will be soon. Next
Oh
few
no, but I
weeks.
see there's a couple other speakdoms here. Yeah, they're a lot of fun. Go check. I mean, they're a lot. They're not fun, but they're worthy. Go check them out. Hear them out. Check out all his content. Thank you for joining us, and thank you all at home for watching. You can hit me up on social media at Andy Signor. Thank you for joining the live stream. I'll be doing these sporadically. At some point, I'll have a more set schedule. But in the meanwhile, hit that subscribe button, the notification bell, so you can be alerted when things happen. And thank you so much for the support for watching. And I'll be back soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.